Ayesha Curry, the wife of a famous basketball player, just entered a luxury boutique, but what happened next left her humiliated in a way no one expected. How she handled the situation will leave you in curiosity. Located in the heart of New York City, this luxury boutique stood out with its clean white marble walls, glass shelves, and soft music in the background. It had an air of exclusivity, filled with expensive dresses, shoes, and accessories. The store was designed to make every visitor feel like they were in a special, high-class world. The faint smell of perfumes and the gentle music added to the sense of elegance. Helena, the manager, had worked here for many years. She was tall, always dressed in stylish clothes, and paid attention to every detail. Helena was in charge, making sure that only the right people were allowed into the boutique. To Helena, luxury was about more than just expensive things. It was about people with good taste and elegance. She believed that only those who truly understood luxury deserved to be in the boutique. Helena saw herself as the one who controlled who could experience this special world. She didn't like tourists or people who didn't fit in, often thinking to herself that only those who truly appreciated luxury should be allowed inside. It was a quiet morning at the boutique, the soft sounds of classical music playing in the background. Helena was standing behind the counter, carefully inspecting the store. Everything was in place, as usual. The elegant displays, the polished marble floors, and the neatly arranged designer items were all perfect. It was a space for people who appreciated luxury and exclusivity, and Helena made sure it stayed that way. As she looked around, her attention was drawn to the entrance. The boutique's doors swung open, and a woman walked in. Helena's eyes immediately moved toward her, and she felt a wave of discomfort. The woman was dressed casually, worn-out jeans, sneakers, and a simple gray sweatshirt that had the word "love" printed across the front. Helena's first thought was, "This woman does not belong here." The contrast between the woman's appearance and the upscale atmosphere of the boutique was obvious. The boutique was a place for elegance, for people who understood the value of fine things, and this woman didn't seem to fit that image at all. Helena could tell right away that the woman wasn't dressed for a store like this. In Helena's mind, she was just another tourist or someone who didn't know what real luxury was. Helena adjusted her glasses, watching the woman from a distance. She was looking around, moving slowly through the store, her eyes gliding over the displays. She didn't seem to have any specific direction, just casually browsing, touching a few items here and there. Helena's unease grew. The woman's presence didn't seem to match the boutique's refined image, and Helena couldn't help but feel that the store's atmosphere was being disrupted. Helena took a deep breath and straightened her blazer. She had to act. This kind of intrusion couldn't be allowed. The store's reputation was built on a certain standard, and she couldn't let someone's careless appearance ruin that. She began walking toward the woman, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, the sound echoing through the quiet boutique. As she approached, Helena couldn't shake the feeling that this woman didn't belong. She stopped a few feet away and gave the woman a polite but firm smile, her eyes scanning the woman's outfit. This will be easy, she thought to herself. A few words, and she'll get the hint. May I help you? Helena asked, her voice calm but cool, with just a hint of condescension. She tilted her head slightly, her smile never wavering. The woman looked up, and for a moment, their eyes met. There was something in the woman's gaze that made Helena pause for just a second. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't embarrassed. In fact, she seemed calm, almost serene, as though she belonged in the store, despite the way she looked. The woman gave a small smile and replied, "Just browsing." Helena's smile tightened. She didn't like the casual tone. It seemed out of place in a store like this. "I see," she said, her voice sharp. "But we do aim to provide a certain kind of experience for our customers. We want to make sure the atmosphere here remains serene and exclusive." The woman didn't seem bothered by Helena's words. She merely nodded, still looking around as if she wasn't fazed by the judgment in the air. Helena, now feeling more unsettled, watched her every move, preparing to step in again if the situation escalated. In her mind, Helena was already making plans to ask the woman to leave. She couldn't let someone who looked so out of place stay in the store. It wasn't just about the clothes, it was about the message this woman was sending. She doesn't understand luxury, Helena thought, feeling more irritated by the second. She's not the type of customer we cater to. Helena crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing slightly. She had been the manager of this boutique for years, and she wasn't about to let anyone disrespect the standards she had worked so hard to maintain. Helena stood for a moment, silently observing the woman as she continued to casually browse the boutique, seemingly oblivious to the judgment she was drawing from the store's manager. Helena's mind raced with thoughts of how to handle the situation. She could already feel the anxiety building up inside her. This woman's presence was unsettling, and Helena was determined to take control. Helena walked up to the woman, her heels clicking sharply against the polished marble floor. Her steps were deliberate, calculated, as if every movement was a statement. She approached the woman slowly, making sure to keep a polite yet cold smile on her face. The woman, still browsing, seemed unaware of the growing tension in the air. "May I help you?" Helena asked, her voice smooth but carrying an edge of subtle authority. Her words were polite, but her gaze scanned the woman's outfit, taking in the worn jeans, simple sneakers, and the "love" printed across the sweatshirt. There was no mistaking it, this woman did not belong in Helena's world. The woman looked up from a nearby display, her gaze calm and collected. She met Helena's eyes and smiled faintly. "I'm just browsing, thank you," she replied softly, her tone unbothered by Helena's judgment. Helena felt a small flicker of irritation rise within her. This woman wasn't just out of place, she seemed completely unaware of the exclusivity Helena had worked so hard to create in the boutique. But instead of letting her frustration show, Helena chose to push further, to assert her authority with a tone that was cold but unmistakable. "I see," Helena said, her smile tightening ever so slightly. "But this boutique is a very special place. We cater to clients who appreciate luxury, who understand what this store is about. We aim to provide a serene and exclusive experience for those who truly belong here." The woman, completely unflustered by Helena's sharp words, simply tilted her head slightly, as if considering what had just been said. There was no defensiveness, no anger in her eyes, just a calm, unwavering composure. The woman looked back at the displays for a moment before responding. "I understand," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "But I don't think luxury should be defined by someone's appearance." Helena's smile faltered for a brief moment, but she quickly recovered. She had heard this argument before, but she wasn't about to let this woman, dressed so casually and unrefined, make her question the standards she had always upheld. She crossed her arms, standing even straighter, her eyes narrowing with a subtle, yet noticeable, irritation. "Of course, you may not understand," Helena retorted with a touch of sarcasm, looking the woman up and down. "But you see, luxury isn't just about what you buy, it's about the lifestyle. The attitude. The way one carries themselves. It's about good taste and elegance. Not just throwing on a sweatshirt and sneakers and walking into a place like this." The woman's expression remained calm, though there was now a hint of irony in her smile. She tilted her head slightly and said, "It's interesting how you define luxury. It seems to me that it's not about what people wear, but rather how they treat others. How they carry themselves, as you say." Helena blinked, slightly taken aback. She wasn't used to being challenged so directly, especially not in her own domain. She had expected the woman to be embarrassed or apologetic, to somehow feel inferior in the face of Helena's criticism. But this woman, this calm, composed figure, wasn't reacting the way Helena had anticipated. Instead of backing down, she was subtly pointing out the contradictions in Helena's judgment. "I'm sure that's one way to look at it," Helena replied, her tone growing more condescending. "But in a place like this, we don't have the luxury of letting anyone in. Our clients expect the best, and they deserve nothing less. It's about the right environment, the right experience. And quite frankly, you're not dressed for it." The woman's smile widened slightly, but there was no malice in her expression. "Perhaps," she said softly, "but isn't it a little subjective? What makes someone right for a place like this? Is it just about the clothes they wear or the way they look? Or is it about who they are, their character, their values?" Helena's eyes narrowed, her mind racing. She was used to controlling these situations, making sure the image of the boutique was preserved. But this woman was different. She wasn't pushing back angrily or raising her voice, she was questioning Helena's very definition of luxury, of exclusivity, and it made Helena feel uncomfortably aware of how rigid and shallow her beliefs had become. The woman paused for a moment, allowing the words to sink in before adding, "Maybe true luxury isn't about appearances, but about treating people with respect, no matter who they are or what they're wearing." Helena was speechless for a moment. The woman's calm tone and subtle irony had disarmed her. She wasn't sure how to respond, her own sense of authority suddenly feeling fragile. Before she could collect her thoughts, the boutique door opened again, and the woman's husband walked in, Steph Curry. As Helena stood there, her arms crossed tightly in front of her, she couldn't help but feel a growing sense of discomfort. The woman in front of her had remained composed and unflappable despite Helena's biting remarks, her responses calm and measured. It was almost as though she were above it all, unbothered by the judgment Helena was so eager to pass. But Helena was determined. She had worked too hard to build this boutique's reputation to let someone like this walk in and ruin the atmosphere with their careless appearance. The tension was thick, the words hanging in the air between them like a heavy fog. Just as Helena was about to say something else, the door to the boutique swung open with a soft chime, and Helena's gaze immediately shifted toward the sound. A man stepped inside, and the atmosphere seemed to change instantly. He was tall, with a confident, easygoing presence that immediately drew attention. He wore a simple yet stylish outfit, jeans and a fitted jacket, but it was his charisma that made him stand out. His smile was warm and welcoming, and there was a certain ease to his movements that made it clear he wasn't a stranger to public attention. "Hey, there you are," he said, his voice smooth as he walked toward the woman. His eyes were locked on her with a look of genuine affection. "I've been looking for you." Helena's gaze followed the man as he approached the woman. She had never seen him before, but something about his confidence, the way he moved, and the way he spoke made it clear he was someone important. He walked up to the woman and wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her into a warm embrace. The woman smiled up at him, the tension in the air suddenly dissipating as she leaned into his embrace. "Steph," the woman said, her voice soft but filled with fondness. Helena's eyes widened, her mind racing as she tried to make sense of what she was witnessing. She stood frozen for a moment, completely caught off guard. The man, who had just entered the store with such ease and familiarity, was none other than Steph Curry, the famous NBA star, one of the most beloved and successful basketball players in the world. The realization hit Helena like a freight train. She had been so focused on judging this woman for her appearance, dismissing her as someone unworthy of being in the boutique, that she had failed to see who she was. The woman she had been so quick to criticize was Ayesha Curry, Steph Curry's wife, a woman not only admired for her grace and success but also an influential figure in her own right. Helena's face drained of color. Her heart skipped a beat as the truth became clear. She had just humiliated the wife of one of the most famous and respected athletes in the world without even realizing it. Ayesha Curry wasn't just anyone, she was a respected businesswoman, an author, a philanthropist, and someone who was admired for her intelligence and poise. But to Helena, she had only been a woman in a sweatshirt who didn't belong in her world. Steph smiled at Ayesha, his gaze warm and affectionate. He then turned to look at Helena, who still stood there, stunned and speechless. "Hi there," Steph said, his voice friendly but with a hint of curiosity as he regarded the boutique manager. "I hope everything's been going well. Ayesha's told me a lot about your boutique." Helena swallowed hard, trying to regain her composure. Her mind was racing, but she couldn't find the words to explain herself. How could she have been so blind, so quick to judge? She had assumed that Ayesha didn't belong because of her casual clothes, completely missing the fact that this woman was far beyond her shallow assumptions. Ayesha smiled warmly at Helena, sensing the sudden shift in the atmosphere. She didn't say anything at first, but her eyes spoke volumes. There was no anger, no harsh words, just a calm understanding that seemed to silently remind Helena of the mistake she had made. "I'm sorry," Helena finally stammered, her voice faltering. I didn't know. I didn't recognize you." Ayesha chuckled softly, a light, genuine sound that made the tension in the air feel less heavy. "I know," she replied with a smile. "It's not something I expect people to recognize, especially when I'm just out for a casual day. But I think it's important that we don't judge people based on what they wear, don't you?" Helena felt a lump form in her throat. Ayesha's words stung, but they were true. She had been quick to assume, quick to judge based on nothing more than appearance. And now, standing in front of her, was someone who represented everything Helena had tried to control and categorize into a box of exclusivity. I apologize," Helena said again, her tone genuine but filled with regret. "I shouldn't have judged you. That was wrong of me." Steph, ever the gentleman, gave a small smile and shook his head. "It's all right. But maybe next time, don't judge a book by its cover," he said, his voice light but carrying an important message. Helena nodded silently, her face flushed with embarrassment. She could feel the weight of the situation now more than ever. She had just learned a valuable lesson in humility, and it was one that would stick with her for a long time. Helena stood in stunned silence, the weight of the revelation sinking in. Her mind raced, trying to process the truth that had just been laid bare before her. The woman she had so harshly judged for her casual appearance was none other than Ayesha Curry, Steph Curry's wife, a woman of grace, success, and influence. Helena's face flushed with embarrassment as the reality of her actions hit her. She had been so quick to judge, so eager to protect the exclusivity of the boutique, that she had overlooked the most important thing, humanity. She had assumed that Ayesha didn't belong because of her clothes, completely missing the fact that this was a woman who, in her own right, was a symbol of elegance and success. The words tumbled out of her mouth in a frantic attempt to fix what could never be fixed. "I'm so sorry," Helena stammered, her voice shaky with guilt. "I didn't know who you were. I was just trying to," her voice trailed off, unable to complete the thought. What was there to say? How could she explain her actions? She had made a critical mistake, one that could not be undone. Ayesha smiled softly, her expression kind but distant. "It's all right," she replied, her voice warm but carrying an undercurrent of disappointment. "You didn't know. But I think the real question is, why do we judge people by their appearances in the first place?" There was no anger in her voice, no harsh words. Just a simple, powerful question that left Helena feeling small, and more aware of her own flaws. Steph, standing by Ayesha's side, gave a small, understanding smile. His calm demeanor only added to the weight of the moment. Unlike Helena, who was visibly shaken, he wasn't angry. He wasn't upset. He had handled the situation with the same composure and humility that he was known for on and off the basketball court. "It's fine," Steph said gently, his voice as easygoing as always. "We're all human. Mistakes happen." He placed a reassuring hand on Ayesha's shoulder and turned to her with a smile. "Let's look around some more," he added, as though the situation hadn't just shifted the entire tone of the boutique. He was calm, unfazed, and yet his words carried more weight than anything Helena could have said to make things right. As they walked away, Helena stood frozen in place. She watched them walk through the boutique, her mind still spinning. She wanted to move, to do something, but she couldn't. It was as if her legs were rooted to the ground, her body unable to make the necessary move to right her wrongs. Her heart pounded in her chest as the reality of her mistake sank deeper into her consciousness. What had seemed like a minor mistake, the judgment of a woman for simply being out of place in the boutique, had revealed something much deeper: Helena's issues with classism and elitism. She had based her perception of Ayesha entirely on her appearance, assuming that someone dressed simply could not possibly belong in a space she saw as exclusive. The damage was done. Helena's judgmental actions had created a rift, not only with Ayesha but also with herself. She had been so focused on upholding the image of the boutique, the illusion of exclusivity, that she had lost sight of what truly mattered: respect, understanding, and the realization that luxury and class cannot, and should not, be defined by outward appearances. Helena's confidence, so carefully built over the years, was shattered in that moment. She had assumed the role of the gatekeeper, the one who decided who was worthy of entering this world of high-end fashion and luxury. But the truth was clear: no one has the right to judge who belongs and who doesn't based on their clothes or their background. Ayesha and Steph had shown her that real luxury wasn't in the labels or the designer clothes, it was in treating others with kindness, respect, and understanding, no matter how they looked or what they wore. As Ayesha and Steph continued to shop, Helena felt a deep sense of regret. This was a lesson she wouldn't soon forget. She had learned the hard way that true luxury wasn't about appearance, it was about the values and character we show to others. It was a hard lesson, but one that would change her forever. As Helena stood frozen in the midst of the boutique, the reality of the situation began to settle around her. She had made a mistake, and it wasn't just her own judgment she had to face, it was the judgment of everyone in the boutique who had witnessed her actions. The store, once a space of serenity and elegance, now felt charged with tension, as though the air itself was thick with the fallout from Helena's behavior. The employees, who had been watching the confrontation unfold from various corners of the boutique, exchanged nervous glances. They had seen Helena handle countless situations with professionalism and grace, but this was different. There was an unmistakable discomfort in the air. The staff members shifted uneasily, unsure of how to proceed. Some tried to maintain their composure and continue their work, but the tension was palpable. Others couldn't help but glance over at the door, where Ayesha and Steph had just left, their departure only highlighting the awkwardness that lingered. Meanwhile, a few customers who had been nearby during the exchange began murmuring among themselves. Some lowered their voices, casting sideways glances at the employees, while others openly discussed the incident. The realization of what had just occurred began to spread like wildfire among the boutique's clientele. "What just happened?" one customer whispered to their friend. "Did she really just judge someone like that, based on what they were wearing?" "I can't believe the nerve of her," another customer muttered, shaking their head. "And she didn't even apologize properly." Helena's behavior had left a bad taste in the mouths of those who had witnessed it. They couldn't understand how a manager, someone entrusted with upholding the boutique's reputation, could have acted so dismissively toward another person based purely on appearance. It wasn't just the words that had struck a nerve, it was the arrogance and the attitude of entitlement that had seemed to seep through every interaction. As Ayesha and Steph left the boutique, things didn't improve. In fact, it only got worse. The moment they stepped outside, someone in the boutique snapped a picture of the couple, perhaps out of curiosity or to capture the moment for posterity. Within minutes, photos of Ayesha and Steph's exit, along with snippets of the confrontation, spread across social media like wildfire. The scene had gone viral, and the online response was swift. On platforms like Twitter and Instagram, people began discussing what had transpired, with many expressing their shock and dismay at Helena's actions. The hashtag #HelenaGate quickly started trending, with many people calling out the boutique manager for her elitist behavior. Shocking to see a boutique manager act like this. Treating someone with such disrespect based on how they look. #HelenaGate #exclusivity gone wrong, one Twitter user wrote. Another added, Ayesha Curry and Steph handled that with so much grace. The manager, however, not so much. #luxury is for everyone. Public figures and influencers jumped into the conversation, some praising Ayesha and Steph for remaining calm and composed in the face of Helena's judgment, while others criticized the boutique for supporting such behavior. But the social media fallout wasn't the only consequence. The ripple effects reached beyond the digital world and started to impact the store's real-world customers. A few regulars, who had often frequented the boutique, began to question their loyalty. Some found themselves uneasy about the elitist attitude Helena had displayed, feeling that they, too, could be judged for something as simple as their appearance. One loyal customer, who had been shopping at the boutique for years, decided to leave without making a purchase. "I can't support a place where people are treated like that," she muttered as she exited, shaking her head. Others followed suit, their purchases left behind, and their dissatisfaction palpable in the air. As more people heard about the incident, whether from social media or word of mouth, the boutique's carefully constructed image of elegance and exclusivity began to crumble. It became clear that Helena's behavior had not only damaged her own reputation but also threatened the reputation of the boutique she had worked so hard to maintain. Helena watched all of this unfold, unable to do anything to stop it. Her mistake had set off a chain of events that she could never undo. The store was no longer just a luxury space, it had become a symbol of elitism and judgment. The day after the incident, Helena sat in her office, reflecting on the events that had unfolded. Her usual confidence was gone, replaced by a heavy sense of regret. The judgment she had passed on Ayesha, based solely on her appearance, weighed on her conscience. As she replayed the situation in her mind, it became clear that she had made a grave mistake, not just with Ayesha, but with herself. For years, Helena had equated luxury with appearance. She believed that exclusivity came from status, from looking the part and living up to the image of sophistication. She had placed too much importance on outward appearances, forgetting the true essence of luxury. It wasn't about designer clothes or expensive accessories, it was about the experience. True luxury was about treating people with kindness, respect, and empathy. It was about the connections made, the moments shared, and the value placed on each person, no matter what they wore. Helena realized that she had been so focused on maintaining an idealized image of luxury that she had lost sight of what really mattered. Her role as manager was not just to ensure the boutique looked pristine, it was to create an environment where everyone felt welcome and respected, regardless of their background or appearance. With this realization came a shift in Helena's perspective. She knew that change was necessary, not just for herself, but for the boutique and the staff who looked up to her. The next morning, she called an all-staff meeting. The atmosphere was different, there was a palpable sense of uncertainty among the employees, who had witnessed the fallout from the previous day's events. Standing before her team, Helena took a deep breath and said, "We've always prided ourselves on being exclusive, but I've realized that luxury isn't about appearances. It's about how we treat people. From today, I want us to think about luxury differently. True luxury is not about what you wear, but how you treat others." The staff listened in silence, some nodding in agreement, others exchanging uncertain glances. But Helena's words had an impact. She went on to explain that every customer, no matter their appearance, deserved the same respect and kindness. From that moment forward, Helena made a conscious effort to greet every customer with warmth and respect. She encouraged her team to do the same, promoting an inclusive environment where empathy took precedence over judgment. The boutique began to change. The atmosphere shifted from one of exclusivity to one of hospitality. Helena had learned a valuable lesson that day: true luxury is about more than what you wear, it's about how you make others feel. In the weeks that followed, the boutique began to transform. The atmosphere, once filled with an air of exclusivity and judgment, was now infused with warmth and inclusivity. Helena's shift in perspective had rippled through every corner of the boutique. Employees who had once maintained a strict, distant demeanor began to greet customers with genuine smiles and a welcoming attitude. There was no longer a sense of superiority in the air, only an appreciation for each person who walked through the door. Customers who had previously felt uncomfortable or out of place now felt welcome. Some remarked how different the boutique felt, how they were treated with respect regardless of their appearance or background. Word spread quickly, and new customers began to visit, drawn not only by the high-quality products but also by the welcoming atmosphere that had taken shape. Helena walked through the boutique one afternoon, a quiet sense of satisfaction filling her chest. The transformation was not just in the store's environment but in her own mindset as well. She had always believed that luxury was about appearance, but now she understood that the true essence of luxury was in how people were treated. The pride she once felt in curating an exclusive, almost inaccessible space had been replaced by a pride in creating an environment where everyone felt valued. Helena no longer focused on who belonged in the boutique. Instead, her energy was focused on ensuring that every person, no matter their clothes, their background, or their status, felt like they belonged. She had learned that a luxury experience wasn't about labels or status, it was about respect, kindness, and genuine connection. One evening, as the boutique closed and Helena sat at her desk, she noticed a framed photograph on her shelf. It was an old picture of herself, taken years ago when she had dreamed of managing a boutique like this. In the photo, she was dressed simply, looking up at the elegant window displays with wide eyes filled with ambition. She had once thought that success in this world would come from wealth, from designer labels, and from a perfect, polished appearance. Now, as she looked at that photo, Helena smiled. She had come far from that version of herself. She was no longer focused on superficial measures of success. The boutique was thriving, not because of the clothes on display, but because of the people who walked through the door, and how they were made to feel. Helena had learned that true luxury wasn't about labels or appearances. It was about the connections we make with others, and the impact we have on the lives of those who cross our path.